How does the female brain work? How do women think and reason? Psychology tips. Love gets easier when we stop trying to win understanding and start trying to build it. Have you ever tried to fix something complicated with a manual that technically has words, but somehow none of them connect? You're turning the pieces, tightening the screws, applying pure logic, and still, the whole thing won't work the way you know it should. That's what it can feel like when a man tries to understand a woman's mind using only the rules that usually make sense to him. It's not that women are illogical. It's that a lot of women process life through a different mix of priorities: emotion and meaning, safety and connection, context and tone, alongside logic, not instead of it. Many men, especially under stress, tend to simplify. What's the problem? What's the solution? Done. Many women, especially in relationships, are also scanning. How did that feel? What does it mean for us? Is this safe? Do you still care? Think of it like two operating systems. Your instincts might run on direct problem solving, while hers might run on relationship reading plus emotional data. Same reality, different interface. In this video, we're not going to insult anyone or paint women as one single type. We're going to do something much more useful: break down the patterns that show up often, how many women communicate, how they test for consistency, not to play games, but to feel secure, why small details matter, and why tone can outweigh words. And here's the powerful part. Once you learn how this kind of thinking works, your past arguments won't just look crazy anymore. They'll finally look predictable, and that means your future relationships can become calmer, clearer, and far more rewarding. Let's explore. Let's begin with a truth that stings a little but clears the fog fast. Women do not think the way you do, and the sooner you stop expecting them to, the sooner your relationships stop feeling like a puzzle with missing pieces. This isn't about planets or cliches. It's about function, wiring, and purpose shaped over time, and if you ignore that, you keep playing blindfolded in a game that quietly rewards awareness. Men, by nature, are oriented toward fixing, building, solving, protecting, and closing loops, while women are oriented toward sensing, adapting, reading context, managing connection, and shaping outcomes through awareness rather than force. And that difference is not an insult to either side. It's simply reality explained by psychology tips that too many men refuse to learn. Don't argue with biology. Don't moralize it. Understand it. That is where power begins. I hear the same heartbreak repeated by men of all ages. I gave her everything, and she still walked away. Listen carefully. She didn't leave despite that. She left because of it. The moment everything became predictable, the moment effort disappeared, the moment you stopped being a moving target, the emotional engine stalled. Be clear about this. Attraction is not built on comfort alone. It is built on momentum. You must remain engaged with life, engaged with growth, engaged with direction, because challenge signals value and value sustains attention. When you stop challenging yourself, you don't become safe, you become invisible. Now consider how conflict works, because this is where men lose ground fast. When you argue, your mind searches for solutions, timelines, fixes, and closures. When she argues, her mind lights up with emotion, memory, and meaning all at once, stacking moments on top of each other until the present conversation becomes a collage of everything she has ever felt with you. You're fixing a faucet today. She's reliving tone, timing, absence, and disappointment from years ago. Don't dismiss that. Don't mock it. Translate it. She doesn't experience time in a straight line during emotional moments. She experiences patterns, and if you don't recognize the pattern she's reacting to, you will keep answering the wrong question. To understand her reasoning, simplify your thinking instead of complicating it. She is constantly, often unconsciously, running a short internal checklist. What do I feel right now? What am I gaining here in attention or energy or time? How does this position me compared to others? And are there better options available? That's not cold calculation. That's adaptive awareness. And once you see it, behavior that once confused you starts making sense through clear psychology tips rather than frustration. Don't take it personally. Take it seriously. Loyalty, too, works differently than you expect. For you, loyalty is presence through hardship, consistency through storms, and staying put when things are hard. For her, loyalty is renewed daily through effort, intention, and visible pursuit. That doesn't mean chaos. That means movement. When you relax into autopilot, she doesn't read peace. She reads distance. When you stop striving, she doesn't see stability. She sees stagnation. Be engaged. Be curious. Be alive. You must keep choosing her, not once, but repeatedly, because emotional security for her is not the absence of change. It is proof that desire still exists. This explains the classic paradox men complain about. One man is left because he feels emotionally unavailable. Another is left because he feels too focused on her, and both walk away confused. The truth is simple and subtle. Her mind doesn't evaluate fixed quantities. It responds to contrast. Stability without warmth feels empty. Attention without independence feels heavy. She doesn't want you absent, and she doesn't want you orbiting. She wants you grounded and moving forward. Don't pedestal her. Don't withdraw. Stand tall. Live fully. Invite her into a life that is already in motion. When she feels she is earning your attention rather than receiving it automatically, desire stays awake. When she feels she is choosing you rather than settling into you, connection stays sharp. This is love advice many men resist because it demands effort beyond provision, but it is also the kind that saves years of confusion and quiet resentment. Be the man who understands the rules without resenting them. Be the man who grows without being pushed. Be the man whose presence feels earned, not guaranteed. That is not manipulation. That is mastery. And once you see it clearly, once you apply these psychology tips with humility and intention, relationships stop feeling like battles and start feeling like something far more rewarding, a dynamic, living exchange where attraction breathes because you never stopped becoming. Science confirms when women gather together, their cycles synchronize. Their speech becomes similar. Their opinions merge. That part is well documented. It sounds poetic, almost mystical, but no one tells you the truth about this synchronization. This isn't friendship. This is establishing hierarchy. Now pause. Don't rush to react. Understand what this really means. Human beings are social creatures. Men do it too. But women often do it through comparison, alignment, and emotional calibration. When women spend time together, they subconsciously adjust. Tone, values, expectations, standards, not out of malice, out of survival and belonging. Every compliment is a status check. Every secret shared is compromat blackmail material for the future. Every girl's night out is a reconnaissance mission. That sounds dramatic, but strip away the exaggeration and you'll see the pattern. Conversations aren't just bonding. They're measuring tools. Who is doing better? Who feels safer? Who has more leverage in life? There exists a so-called female social matrix. Every woman lives in an invisible web of comparisons. This is crucial. Don't ignore it. She doesn't evaluate her relationship on the scale of "am I happy?" She evaluates it on the scale of "am I happier than my girlfriends?" This doesn't mean happiness doesn't matter. It means happiness is contextual, relative. Emotional satisfaction is often compared, not calculated in isolation. She doesn't just need a good man. She needs a man who is better than the others have. Better doesn't mean richer or louder. It means steadier, more grounded, more self-directed, more internally solid. This is where many men get lost. Social media has turned this into a nuclear war. Now the comparison pool is endless. Now she compares you not just to her friend's husband, but to a phantom image of an ideal life assembled from the best moments of millions of people on the internet. That image isn't real, but the emotional impact is. This is where many modern relationships strain. You're competing with highlight reels, filtered smiles, curated success. Don't try to win that game. You can't. The "I want it, but I don't want it" paradox drives men insane. Read that again. She demands commitment, but loses attraction when you give it. She wants you to be emotional, but loses respect if you cry. She wants a successful man, but hates the time you spend working to achieve that success. This isn't chaos. This isn't confusion. This isn't a contradiction. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Here's the insight most men miss. She isn't testing what you will give her. She is checking if you have the guts not to give it to her. This is about emotional stability, not control, not power. Stability. Every requirement is a stress test of your durability. Will you hold frame or will you fold? That is the core question. Holding frame doesn't mean being cold. It means being consistent, calm, self-led. You must know who you are before you respond to what is asked of you. As soon as you fold, you lose. Even if folding is exactly what she asked for. Men struggle here because they confuse generosity with self-erasure. Don't. Now consider the story. One guy thought he understood the rules. His girlfriend complained he was secretive. He opened up, told her about his fears, about his depression after his father died. This is deeply human and painful. 2 weeks later, she pulled away. A month later, she left. Why? Later, she told a mutual friend, I just couldn't see him as a protector anymore. This doesn't mean men should never share pain. It means timing, framing, and emotional containment matter. She didn't need his feelings. She needed to know if she could break his walls. Once the walls crumbled, the fortress was useless. A powerful metaphor. The test wasn't for information. It was for structural integrity. That sentence matters. This is where psychology tips become practical wisdom. Emotional openness must be paired with emotional strength. Share your story, but don't collapse into it. Be vulnerable without handing over the steering wheel of your life. Don't perform pain. Integrate it. Be steady. Be grounded. Be self-respecting. That is not about pretending. That is about mastery. Men who thrive in love understand this balance. They give warmth without losing center. They listen without dissolving themselves. They commit without begging to be chosen. This is also solid love advice. Attraction grows where clarity lives. Respect grows where self-direction is visible. Don't outsource your value. Don't chase approval. Don't confuse compliance with connection. Be calm. Be deliberate. Be anchored. That is how you navigate the female social matrix without resentment or confusion. That is how you stay sane in the age of endless comparison. That is how you become the man who is not competing but chosen. Remember this. You are not being asked to give more. You are being observed to see if you can remain whole. That insight alone is worth more than most psychology tips you'll hear. And if applied correctly, it becomes timeless love advice that protects your heart while strengthening your presence. Hold your structure. Everything else aligns from there. If you want to understand how the female brain works, start with one rule that will save you years of confusion. Women are not mysterious. They are contextual. They track meaning, safety, and connection at the same time, and they do it fast. Not because they are trying to outsmart you. Because the brain is built to predict what happens next, and many women are trained by life to read the room, read the tone, read the unsaid, and respond before trouble arises. That is not a flaw. That is a survival skill. Modern neuroscience and psychology agree on something men often ignore. The brain is not just a logic machine, it's a relationship machine. Women, on average, place more attention on emotional nuance, social cues, and the health of the bond, while men, on average, place more attention on the task, the goal, the fix. Average, not absolute, but common enough to matter in your marriage, your dating life, your conversations at the end of a long day. Here are your psychology tips. Stop arguing with her feelings as if they are math errors. Feelings are signals. Signals are data. If you treat her emotional response like noise, you will miss the message and keep repeating the mistake. If you treat it like information, you become the man who leads calmly, clearly, consistently. And that consistency is what many women interpret as strength and safety. Women often reason in layers: what happened, what it means, what it implies about us, what happens if it continues. Men often reason in a line: what happened, what fixes it. Both can be intelligent. Both can miss each other. That's why you must master translation. When she says, "You never listen," she often means, "I don't feel prioritized." When she says, You don't care, she often means, I feel alone with this. When she brings up something small, she may be testing whether you are emotionally present, not whether you can win a debate. Your job is not to surrender your backbone. Your job is to bring clarity, presence, and leadership. As Stephen R. Covey said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That one sentence can change the direction of a relationship if you actually live it. In modern life, stress is constant. Careers, bills, aging parents, health scares, children, screens, noise, and endless pressure. Under stress, many women become more vigilant and more verbal because talking is a way to process and regulate emotion. Many men become more silent and more problem focused because shutting down emotion is a way to stay functional. The same stress creates opposite behaviors, and then both sides misread each other. This is where real love advice matters. Don't wait until the argument to show up. Show up daily. Short check ins, simple reassurance, clear appreciation. One plan you actually follow. Women often respect a man who can say, I hear you. I'm with you. Here's what I'm going to do, and then does it. Maya Angelou said it best, people will never forget how you made them feel. Make her feel secure without letting emotion run the household. Validate feelings without surrendering direction. You can say, that makes sense, without saying you're right. You can say, I understand you're upset, without saying, I'm guilty. That is emotional intelligence. Many men live on approval, and that is exhausting. Stop negotiating your worth. Lead your life. Hold your standards. Be kind, but firm. Give love, but do not abandon yourself to keep peace. Real connection is built on trust. Trust is built on consistency. Consistency is built on self-control. Women often think in stories because stories carry meaning. Men often think in systems because systems produce results. If you want to reach her, don't only bring solutions, bring significance. If you want her to reach you, ask for clarity, not guesses. Tell me what would help. Simple, direct, powerful. More psychology tips. Watch the pursuit and retreat cycle. If she pushes and you withdraw, she pushes harder. If she pushes harder, you withdraw more. Break the pattern. Step forward first. Not with emotion, with leadership. We talk tonight. 15 minutes. No phones. I listen. Then I respond. If you're dating, understand this. Women often assess reliability before chemistry. They watch consistency. They listen for truth. They notice how you handle stress, frustration, and your past. If you want respect, live respectably. If you want loyalty, be steady. Here is final love advice that wins long term. Stop trying to win arguments and start winning the relationship. Use boundaries, not threats. Honesty, not games. Discipline, not drama. Choose your standards. Protect them. Make daily deposits of time, attention, appreciation, and calm strength. That is mastery. That is stability. That is how a man builds a life he controls instead of reacting to. Not victory over women. Victory with them. Victory over chaos. Victory over confusion. Victory over a life lived on autopilot. Women don't have a weakness radar like a comic book villain. They have a sensitivity to signals, especially signals of safety, stability, and self-trust. And if you're dating or married, you must respect how fast those signals travel. Don't confuse kindness with shakiness. Don't confuse honesty with self-pity. Don't confuse a rough season with a helpless identity. Many women aren't repelled by struggle. They're repelled by drifting, by a man who won't choose a direction and stand in it. That is the difference. A steady man can say, I'm nervous, and still feel solid. An unsteady man says, I'm fine, and leaks fear through every pause, every over-explained text, every tense laugh. Be clear. Be grounded. If you hesitate, don't panic, decide. If you're unsure, don't perform confidence, build it. That is love advice that actually works. And about emotions, stop repeating the lazy myth that women are just emotional or that men are just logical. That's not wisdom. That's a shortcut. Many women are highly skilled at reading emotional weather, tone, timing, shifts in energy, and they often use emotions as information, not chaos. You must do the same. Don't treat feelings like a math problem to defeat. Treat them like a signal to understand. Be direct. Ask clear questions. Stay present. Stay calm. Say, I hear you, and then say, here's what I can do, and here is what I won't do. That is adult strength, and it's one of the most underrated psychology tips for men. Now let's talk about fairness, because this is where many men quietly grow bitter. People don't crave equality in a pure, technical sense. They crave fairness as they feel it, and feelings about fairness are shaped by fear, history, and personal cost. You'll see selective fairness in all humans, not just women. I want support, but don't correct me. I want freedom, but don't change. Don't rage at it. Don't preach. Don't keep score. Do this instead. Define the deal. Talk early and clearly about money, responsibility, effort, and expectations. Unspoken rules are where resentment is born. Clear agreements are where peace lives. Comparison is another silent pressure. It hits both genders, but women are often fed comparison more aggressively. Beauty, age, lifestyle, social proof. When someone spends all day around curated success, the brain adopts a distorted reference point. Don't take it personally. Don't call her ungrateful. Be strategic. Create shared goals, shared meaning, shared wins. A couple with a mission compares less and builds more. Say it plainly, let's build our life, not envy someone else's edited version. Then take action. That's real psychology tips in motion. Communication is where most relationships quietly bleed out. Many men speak to exchange information. Many women speak to exchange experience. So when she vents, don't rush to fix. Ask first, do you want solutions, or do you want me to listen? Be patient enough to listen and strong enough to set limits. And don't fear her friends. Validation is often stress relief, not betrayal. But protect your relationship from sloppy storytelling. Say calmly, if something bothers you, bring it to me first. We can handle it here. That is leadership without force. Finally, understand contextual thinking. Many women can hold two truths at once: I love you and I need more. I want closeness and I need space. Don't label that as confusion. Life isn't binary. People shift with stress, safety, trust, and fatigue. Your role isn't control. Your role is consistency. Don't shrink. Don't explode. Be steady. Be clear. Be kind with boundaries. Attraction grows where respect lives, and respect grows where a man leads himself well. That is love advice that doesn't create conflict. It creates loyalty, calm, and a relationship that feels like a safe place to breathe. Many men spend years trying to understand one quiet mystery: how women think, reason, and choose. This is not about blame. That is not the goal. This is about clarity. And clarity changes everything. Studies of female friendship show it often works like a living system of exchange. There is value flowing both ways. Emotional support, shared access to social circles, validation, status by association. Think of it as emotional refueling mixed with social positioning. When that exchange feels balanced, the bond feels warm and alive. When it no longer feels rewarding, distance quietly appears. Not out of cruelty, out of instinct. Men, on the other hand, usually bond through shared activity and mutual respect. Fixing something together, building something, showing up, side by side. Few words needed. This difference alone explains why women often struggle to understand male friendship and why men feel overwhelmed by female social dynamics. Don't ignore this gap. Understand it. Now comes the part many men feel but rarely articulate. Hypergamy is not a trend. It is a built-in comparison mechanism, a constant scanning of relative position. She is always measuring what is possible now, not what was enough before. And here is the twist: available is never stable. Every promotion a friend's husband earns, every polished moment on Instagram, every success story she hears quietly resets the baseline. That means you are not competing with other men. You are competing with a moving standard in her imagination. Don't argue with this. See it clearly. That is one of the most important psychology tips men can learn. A story from life makes this painfully clear. A man spent 10 years building a business. His wife stood beside him through the struggle. Late nights, uncertainty, growth. Then success arrived. And soon after, she left. She said, "You've changed the reality." What really changed was not his character. It was the comparison scale. Her internal calculator updated. He now attracted younger women. Her sense of being irreplaceable faded. Her role in the relationship felt less special to her. She didn't leave because he declined. She left because the balance shifted. That is hard to hear, but you must hear it. Women often sort men into fixed mental categories. One tied to leadership and attraction. One tied to provision and reliability. And one that barely registers at all. Movement between these boxes is rare. Start as the provider, and desire rarely follows. Start as the leader, then lose emotional steadiness and respect evaporates. Don't test this rule. Learn it. Be calm. Be consistent. Be grounded. Don't confuse kindness with self-erasure. Don't negotiate attraction. That is not how the female mind works. These are not accusations. These are psychology tips rooted in observation. Use them wisely. Let them sharpen your love advice, not harden your heart. Understanding is power. And power, when used correctly, builds better relationships, not broken ones. If you want to understand how the female brain works, you must begin by dropping fantasy and picking up observation, because psychology is not poetry, it is pattern. And the men who thrive are the men who study patterns without resentment and without denial. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this applies directly to relationships because men and women evolve to solve different survival problems, which means they process emotion, risk, security, and reward differently, not better or worse, just different. Once you accept that difference, frustration fades and power returns. Women are not wired to build systems, they respond to systems. They assess structure, emotional consistency, and direction, and they instinctively move toward what feels stable, engaging, and rewarding in the moment. This is why a man who lacks boundaries, purpose, or self-respect slowly loses influence, not because she is cruel, but because uncertainty triggers anxiety, and anxiety dissolves attraction. Many men learn this too late. Modern life has amplified this dynamic. Attention is now currency. Validation is everywhere. The digital world rewards emotion over reason, intensity over consistency. Men who expect logic to be rewarded in emotional negotiations are playing the wrong game. The faster you learn that complaining, explaining, or fixing rarely creates attraction, the faster you reclaim your footing. When a woman expresses dissatisfaction, she is often seeking connection, engagement, and emotional presence, not a technical solution. Trying to solve her feelings shuts down the very exchange she is seeking. Esther Pearl captured this perfectly when she said, "Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable." Men who grasp this stop arguing and start leading. This is where real psychology tips matter. Leadership in relationships is not about control. It is about emotional steadiness, clarity of intent, and self-direction. These qualities signal safety and competence without words. In a dating world that feels chaotic, many men feel invisible not because they lack value, but because they were taught to suppress confidence, standards, and self-interest in the hope of being chosen. Attraction does not respond to hope. It responds to certainty. Women gravitate toward men who know where they are going, even if that path does not include her. Certainty is magnetic. Statistics show women initiate most relationship endings, not out of malice, but because emotional dissatisfaction builds silently. Men who ignore small signals, delay self-development, or outsource their identity to the relationship are often shocked by outcomes they unknowingly contributed to. This is why modern love advice must be honest, not comforting. Memory and emotion shape how relationships are recalled. Both men and women reinterpret the past to protect identity and reduce pain. Seeking fairness after emotional bonds break is usually a losing battle. Wise men do not litigate memories. They move forward stronger, clearer, and more disciplined. Attention, Praise, responsiveness, and presence fuel emotional connection. When these decline, conflict often increases, not as a failure, but as a signal. Men who understand this stop personalizing behavior and start managing their energy. Here is a truth most men are never taught: women do not fall in love with sacrifice. They respond to direction, grounded confidence, and emotional availability without neediness. The man who understands this stops chasing approval and starts building a life so full that companionship becomes a choice, not a requirement. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Nowhere is this more applicable than in relationships. Once you stop expecting women to think like men, value what men value, or communicate like men, you stop feeling betrayed by differences that were never promised to align. You cannot negotiate attraction. You cannot argue desire into existence. You cannot logic your way into emotional safety. But you can cultivate strength, clarity, and self-respect. That recalibrates every interaction you enter. Many psychology tips and love advice fail men by telling them to be endlessly agreeable. Fulfillment comes from balance. Knowing when to give. Knowing when to stand firm. Compatibility is not moral judgment. It is alignment. Women are not puzzles to solve or opponents to defeat. They are emotional evaluators responding to cues you broadcast daily. When your actions communicate strength without arrogance and care without dependence, the entire dynamic shifts. You cannot rewrite evolution with wishful thinking, but you can work with reality instead of fighting it. Once you do, resentment dissolves and calm replaces chaos. The men who win are not angry. They are prepared. They do not demand loyalty. They inspire it through consistency. They do not chase validation. They generate it internally. They do not fear walking away. So remember this and repeat it until it sticks. Stop waiting for women to think like you. Stop assigning moral failure to biological difference. Stop outsourcing your identity to romantic outcomes. Build your structure. Protect your direction. Refine your presence. Relationships will either align naturally or remove themselves without drama. And that is victory. That is mastery. That is how a man takes control of his life using real psychology tips, grounded love advice, and unshakable self-respect. Men, understanding how women think is not about gaining control, winning arguments, or protecting ego. It is about gaining clarity. And clarity changes how you show up as a man. Once you stop expecting women to reason, react, or attach the way you do, frustration gives way to awareness. What once felt unpredictable becomes patterned. What once felt personal becomes informational. Women respond less to words and more to signals, consistency, direction, emotional steadiness, and self-respect. They don't need perfection, but they do need presence. They don't need endless reassurance, but they do need to feel chosen by a man who has already chosen his own life. Attraction does not grow from sacrifice alone. It grows from momentum, purpose, and grounded confidence. This is not about becoming cold or manipulative. It is about becoming centered. When you lead yourself well, you no longer chase understanding, you create it. When you hold your structure, emotions settle instead of escalating. When you stop trying to win every moment, you begin to win long term. The goal is not to figure women out. The goal is to become the kind of man whose clarity, direction, and calm make connection feel safe and alive. When that happens, relationships stop feeling like battles and start feeling like alignment. All right, my friend, thank you for staying with me until the very end. That already says a lot about you. You didn't just watch this video for entertainment. You watched because you truly want to understand how the female mind works, how women think, feel, and reason. And that thirst for truth? Don't let it fade away. My sincere advice for you is this: listen more, observe more, and stop guessing. When you understand psychology, relationships become clearer, calmer, and more respectful. Real connection is built on understanding, not assumptions. You've taken a step forward today. Keep growing. Keep learning. Blessing of Stoicism is a channel for those who are growing and evolving. If this content helped you see the world a little more clearly, hit subscribe and welcome to the real world.